My name is Gloria. I teach yoga. I teach Pilates Reformer. I have 2 adult children and 6 grandchildren and 2 step-grandchildren. I have a dog and a mischievous cat. I'm a very happy person, and I just do. I was 14 years old, and I saw him at a swimming pool. And oh my gosh, he was the most beautiful specimen of a man I ever seen. And I went home, and my cousin knew his sister, and she fixed me up on a date. And when I came home, I went to see my mom in the bedroom, and I said, I'm going to marry him. And she went, yeah, honey. But I did. I mean, he was beautiful inside and out. And my mom always told me that a man that loves children and loves their mother would always take care of their wives as well. And then he was hysterical. He was so great looking and pompous and egotistical, but hysterical. He was really, really funny. When I was a junior in high school, he finally gave me his class ring. And then on my graduation, he gave me my engagement ring on that night, and we got married 1 year later. Well, my marriage with Rich was, I was the one that was always like over in love. People would say to me, you know, like, he's one of those kind of guys that, you know, he's going to marry his secretary because he's so great looking. And I always said 10 minutes with Rich was better than none. I was my biggest thing, I always said. In fact, when he did pass away, I was bawling, and my aunt came in and said, whatever happened to 10 minutes with Rich is better than none. And I thought, you know, she's right. And that kind of pulled me out of it a little bit. He sent me a card on Valentine's Day, and it said, whenever you need me, all you need to do is call me, like a star that's fallen from the sky. And when I'm not there, you call, and I will be there. And I said to him, I had big tears in my eyes, and I didn't like that card. And he went, I thought you would love that card. And I went, it sounds like a death card. And he died March 3rd, and that was February 14th. So his soul was already telling me, I gotta go, you know, gotta go. I kept waiting for him to come home, and it was very unusual that he didn't call me every morning, because even though he was self-employed, he would get up and rush to work like he was going to have to clock in, but he would call me every morning, and that's when we would talk. So he never called, and so I knew that there was something wrong. And so it was probably the worst day of our lives at that point.
It's the baddest day you can possibly think of, and times it by 10. I mean,
Yeah, it was bad.
truthfully, I don't really like to talk about it, but
Yeah, it was really bad.
I mean, I would say it's the worst experience, you know, that every one of us in our family had to deal with.
First couple weeks, just incomplete denial, I guess, of it, or unacceptance is more than denial. I knew that he wasn't coming back, but I really just did not want to accept it.
She was going on nothing, and she was just sleeping constantly. Literally, she was sleeping in the living room on his couch for months. It was terrible. And for a mom who's as high energy and as loving and nurturing, and none of that was there. I mean, it just wasn't there.
I always said if we were rich, I would have stayed in a closet and cried for 2 years. But because we had no money, and I was only making $10,000 a year, and my house payment was $1,200, I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do that, you know. So I just got off on my butt and I went to work. I mean, he was my trophy husband all the way, you know. And the day he died, he got in the car and he said, when I come home tonight, I'm going to spoil you. And so I knew he loved me just like, you know, I did. But, you know, I put my head against the door and I said, he finally knows. He finally knows how much I love him, because he was deserted as a child. And so he always thought that I would desert him too. But when he finally realized that I was never going to go anywhere, he knew it. And I really believe that that's why we die. When we complete what we came here to do, there's nothing left to do.
It was totally devastating. And then with Stephen dying, it almost added like an element of like a blackout.
Then Stephen was the baby, and he was probably the most beautiful baby that I had. He was an animal lover. Didn't like school. I'd take him to school and they'd call me and they'd say, Mrs. Reeker, he's not here. And I'd go, no, no, no. I took him to school and I put him in the door. Yeah, well, I don't care what you did. He ain't here. And sometimes he'd beat me home.
He was kind of the tornado. So it was kind of Mom and me and Dad and Rich, and then he had Steven who would just mix it up, and he was just a whirlwind of excitement all the time.
Well, he was a very healthy kid like his dad, same deal, only after his dad died, he created a lung disease. If I would have known yoga back in the day, we carry all of our grief in our lungs, and I never knew that back then. And I had pneumonia for 3 months after Rich passed away, and I'm never sick in a day of my life up to that point, but I couldn't get rid of it. And then Steven developed the lung disease because he and I both were like we internalized it and it went to our lungs. Only he was coming home from work one day and his lung went down and it feels like a heart attack. So that's how he passed away, but right at the Richwood exit, which is where we live. So he was just almost home. Well, my biggest explanation of it is that I always say Rich, my husband, broke my heart, but Steven put a hole in it. I faked it until I made it. I think I didn't fall apart till about 2 years later. And then everybody thought I was nuts. Like, what's wrong with her? But really, it was just the grief that I had stored up because one day I was laying on the couch and one of my other children said, don't you think Mom's sleeping way too much? And I thought, get up. They're as sad as you are, get up. And that's what made me get up, really, after Steven died, or otherwise I think I would have just stayed on that couch because it didn't seem worth getting up off the couch until I heard Richard and Michelle's voice, and it was about a month later. It dawned on me that life was still there, and I loved my other two children as much as I loved Steven. And so in honor of Steven, I got up. My sister found a class at St. E, and we went, and I took right to it. And there really is something about yoga means to yoke or to unite. And I think there is a strong bond when you learn how to go within yourself. The cave of your heart is an inch to the right of your natural heart. And when you can understand that you're never alone and all your answers are right there, you don't have to ask anybody. The second I ask somebody else, I weaken my own will. And then I started to realize that through yoga, because yoga is going in. It is going in and going in and going in. And you climb into, you just keep climbing. And then when you climb to the top, what you find is you. I mean, that sounds goofy, but it is. When you go to hell and back, you are a pretty boring person when you're in hell. But when you come back, you have a salt that no one else has. And that's what I have. I mean, I created a salt in myself, you know, a rock that I could lean on for myself. This gray hair is real. I mean, I've been through a lot of things, but I've had a lot of joy. I have a wonderful daughter who, you know, that I know loves me. That's and my son, oh my gosh, he calls me his beautiful mother, and he picks me up, kisses me, I mean, you know. And then I have, you know, this is gonna sound really like I'm just saying it, but a friend like your mother. I mean, she calls me every day. No one calls me every day, but your mom calls me every day. And if someone asks me to give them a number in case I get hurt, I know Missy would know I wasn't dead for a week. So yeah, I feel so loved. I really do. I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed. I had a man that I love more than life itself. Some people never get that kind of love. And then I have, you know, 8 grandchildren. Some people never have one. I'm very, very fortunate with, behind every dark cloud, there truly is a silver lining.